Exemption Clauses Incorporation Ali v. Markborough Court Ltd. A term/exemption clause must be incorporated before or at the time of contracting. Row 2. Exemption Clauses Incorporation Thornton v. Shoe Lane Parking. An exemption clause must be incorporated before or at the time of contracting, and the more destructive of rights the explicit the attention need to drawn to it. Row 3. Exemption Clauses Incorporation Chapelton v. Barry Urban District C. The document that the exemption clause is written on must be objectively expected include terms of a contract. Row 4. Exemption Clauses Methods of Incorporation Ellis Strange v.F. Procob Ltd. When a document containing contractual terms is signed, in absence of fraud or misrepresentation, the party signing is bound by the terms, no matter if read/understood or not. Row 5. Exemption Clauses Methods of Incorporation Curtis v. Chemical Cleaning and Dyeing. Overriding oral assurance which does not correspond to the exemption clause will render the clause to not be incorporated. Row 6. Exemption Clauses Methods of Incorporation Parker v. Southeastern Railway. The party wishing to rely on the exemption clause must have taken reasonable steps to bring the clause to the attention of the affected party. Row 7. Exemption Clauses Methods of Incorporation Interphoto v. Stiletto. The more unusual or onerous the term, the greater the steps which need to be taken to bring the party's attention to it. Row 8. Exemption Clauses Regular Course of Dealings McCutcheon v. McBrain. A term can be incorporated through a consistent and regular course of dealings. Row 9. Exemption Clauses Regular Course of Dealings Kendall v. Lilico. Contracting 3-4 times per month over a period of 3 years is regular. Row 10. Exemption Clauses Regular Course of Dealings Collier v. Rambler Motors. Contracting 3-4 times over 5 years was not a regular course of dealings. Row 11. Exemption Clauses Excluding Liability Houghton v. Trafalgar Insurance. The party attempting to exclude or exclude liability must show the clause, when properly interpreted, must cover such loss. Ambiguity goes to the defense. Quote contra proferentum. Quote. Row 12. Limitation Clause Limiting Liability Ailsa Craig Fishing v. Malvern Fishing. The contra proferentum rule should not be applied to limitation clauses. Exemption Clauses Excluding Liability Canada Steamship v. The King. If a party wishes to exclude liability for negligence, they must expressly mention negligence. If negligence is not expressly mentioned, then the court must consider if the words used are wide enough in their ordinary meaning to exempt negligence. If the words are deemed wide enough, then the court must see if an alternative head of liability is excluded. If this is found, then this head of liability is excluded and need can't be. Acta 1977. Reasonableness Mitchell v. Finney Lock Seeds. When a court is to define what's fair and reasonable in relation to S11 of Acta 1977, an appellate court must treat the court of first instance decision with utmost respect, and only when it is apparent that an erroneous judgment was plainly and obviously made may they question the interpretation of that court. Acta 1977 S12. Dealing as a consumer. R&B Customs Brokers v. United Dominions. Quote, in the course of business, quote, means that transaction is either integral to the business or incidental to the business but regularly occurring. SGA 1979. Dealing as a consumer. Stevenson v. Rogers. Quote, in the course of business, quote, means that unless the transaction is purely private in nature, it will be seen as in the course of business. UTCCR 1999. Unfairness. Director General of Fair Trading v. First National Bank. There will be a significant imbalance if a term is so weighted in the favor of the supplier as to tilt the party's rights and obligations under the contract significantly in his favor. If the course of dealings is not fair and open, contains clearly expressed terms and also good standards of commercial morality and practice, it will be deemed not in quote good faith quote. If it is deemed that a contract was created with a significant imbalance and not in good faith, it will be deemed as unfair.